Welcome to the Healers Podcast, where we inspire and guide healers through business expansion. We give voice to incredibly abundant healers to share their stories. We dive into the quantum field to unlock the energies of conscious creation. We also develop digital tools to help you grow, which you can find on healless.com. I'm your host, Yuli, and I'm grateful you chose to join this space. Now let's go deep. Hello, dear friends. Another very insightful and fun episode of the Healers Podcast coming your way. And I'm so excited to welcome Brynn Scarborough to the show today. Brynn is a seasoned leader in the wellness tech space, known for scaling companies and guiding transformation with both heart and strategy. Through her work at Alchemy Leadership Lab, she's now helping leaders and especially women find clarity, purpose, and confidence in their voice. In this episode, we're exploring how to craft a soulful elevator pitch, not a stiff rehearsed script, but a way to speak your truth clearly so it attracts the right people. So I'm really excited for this episode, and my intention would be for this one to learn, of course, and explore deep subjects, but I also want to have a little fun. I feel like I'm really inspired by my own young kids and just watching them and how much fun they're having and every single moment of their life, or most moments, and how much we as adults miss that. So springtime, we can feel kind of like this spring summer energy. This subject kind of invites to more experiment and maybe play, pretend. And so I'm just excited for the next hour or so. So welcome, Brynn.
Thank you so much. I'm excited as well. I always get very energized around the spring equinox. I don't have that new year, new you energy. It doesn't come until around springtime. So I'm with you as I'm watching the flowers bloom and all of us sneezing from pollen. I also get really energized this time of year for the next thing and whatever's coming as a next iteration for the year.
Amazing. I'm the same way. I'm so excited to connect with you today. And I wanted to dive right in, as we like to do on this podcast. Let's give our listeners something really, really to take away from if they just listened to the first few minutes. And we originally, when we connected and we kind of chatted about so many different subjects we can discuss, and you're really an incredible resource, everything that comes to personal transformation. And somehow the conversation led us to the fact that how many practitioners and healers and being solopreneurs, they're sometimes undermine their own messaging subconsciously, consciously. And they really, when it comes to those first few minutes, when you meet a new person, you meet a new client or potential client, or you meet somebody at a party even who's asking you, oh, so what do you do? I think so many people stumble there. And it's from that to even, when we host events with healers, we host our wonderful healer circles and people have an opportunity to share what they do. It's always, you either get a very quick, short answer that doesn't give you a really good idea, or you get extremely long-winded kind of history of their lives, which very fascinating. But often, again, it doesn't give you that quick snapshot of who the person is. How can you connect? So can you give some of your perception and some of the quick tips around that? And then maybe we can do a little bit of role playing as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of things that come to mind when you bring up, how we position ourselves, how we can just quickly communicate to someone who we are, what we do, what we're about. And so I want to start with kind of what you said, this preconceived idea of how we position ourselves in soul-led work, or in work that we believe is more, let's say, heart-based, soul-based, spiritually based, those types of things. And sometimes we think that language doesn't really translate into being able to tell someone very quickly at a happy hour, this is who I am and this is what I do. And having been on both sides of this coin, walking into new spaces and trying to explain in a quick way what I'm doing when there might be 45 tabs open, And then also listening and responding to so many of these types of positionings, really knowing the difference and getting out of our own head when it comes to saying who we are and what we do with confidence. And I think women especially hold back on this. You'll even hear questioning tonality. We will speak more smallly about ourselves. We will position ourselves as if we're asking a question instead of making a statement, things like that, which is just a natural impulse for us. And it really does take practice to kind of take the ick out of the pitch or the ick out of the statements to be able to just say, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I bring to the table.
Amazing. And you touched on so many different blocks and challenges already. So let's put that in action. Let's say we meet for the first time and you ask me the famous question, the elevator pitch question.
That's right. That's right. So what do you do?
I do Reiki.
What is Reiki?
It's this energy healing practice that I studied for a couple of years and I got the certificate, and now I'm starting out. I have some clients that I'm seeing, but yeah, I love that.
Oh, that sounds so interesting. Why would I do Reiki?
Well, it's good for your system in general, and it's great for different conditions. And yeah, it's something that is just really helpful to everyone.
Oh, I love that. I would love to know more. How can I get in touch with you?
Here's my cell phone number. You can always just text me. And, if you ever feel like exploring Reiki, I would love to have maybe I also offer free intro sessions. So if you ever want one, just text me and we'll find time.
Oh, that sounds great. Thank you so much. So what we could dive into from that one conversation right there. So good.
So let's analyze that a little bit and what can we do better?
Yeah. So I feel like that was a really good representation of how sometimes we talk about ourselves, especially when we are walking into our soul-led work. And I've actually found this as I'm walking into the space with Alchemy Leadership Lab as well. So when I hear you talk about, let's say, being a Reiki healer, I think to myself, you're a practitioner who helps someone align their energy and their intention. Simple as that, right? And it may not be the perfect, most flowery definition of what Reiki is in its true historical sense. That's not really what we're trying to get to here. What we're trying to get to is that statement that sticks in my mind as I hear it, so that when I think of you, I know exactly where you're positioned and when to reach out to you. And I think when we change the framing around what we're actually doing, when we pitch ourselves, maybe even take away the pitch terminology, when we introduce ourselves, when we invite someone into our work, which could be a much better way to look at this, that invitation needs to be really clear about what we're being invited into so that it applies to me. And then I know where to find you later on. I got some great advice about a year ago as I was really working with this. I knew how to pitch my company. I knew how to pitch myself as an executive, but I was stepping out into my own space and exploring doctoral research, all of these things. Thankfully, I got to learn and sit at the feet of some incredibly accomplished women who just said exactly who they were as clearly as possible. And it didn't come off as, oh, that's gross, or, oh, they're selling themselves. It came off as, I know exactly what they do. And I know exactly what they need from me or how I can get involved in that invitation to their work. And so I think a bit of reframing there is also really important when we're putting these statements together.
So can I put you on the spot then? Can we just switch chairs now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So, hi, what do you do?
Oh, I'm a Reiki healer, but what that actually means is that I'm a practitioner that helps people align their energy with their intention and get things done in their lives.
So how do you do that? What is Reiki? How does it work?
Well, Reiki helps you align your energy centers so that you can show up as a whole person, as a whole human to whatever it is that you're putting your intention towards, whether that's your business or your family or your health, whatever that is.
And how can I potentially explore your services?
I would love to talk with you more about my services. Here's my business card. It's got a QR code on it. You can scan it and you can go immediately to scheduling a discovery session that's totally free. We can talk a little bit more about how Reiki might assist you in accomplishing your goals and the things that are important to you.
Amazing. I'm clicking right now.
New client.
Yes.
I am not a Reiki healer myself. So if I misrepresented any of that, I'm so sorry. But yeah, I think it really is about being able to connect with the person you're talking to, connect with your audience, right? I think we have this old school idea of what an elevator pitch is, that it's always the same. And it's not. It really isn't. If you are talking about Reiki, for example, to an executive leader who is really stressed and needs help aligning priorities, that's going to be a different conversation than the stay-at-home mom, than the, digital nomad who is really involved with all of these types of modalities. So being flexible and really putting yourself in the shoes of the listener is incredibly important.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Let's do another fun one. Can we do another case?
Yes.
And by the way, I'm not a practitioner. So if I misrepresent something, I apologize to anyone. But let's do another extreme case.
Okay. Let's do it. It's so great to meet you. Tell me more about what you do.
So I studied a lot of different things in the holistic healing space, anything from, I started with yoga, and then I got also a certificate in Ayurvedic practices, and I learned also other modalities like hypnotherapy and sound healing. So I'm really, really passionate about the holistic space, and I just love learning new tools. And so I'm able to offer my clients all this kind of whole package of things that are depending on what they need. I usually, when I go into sessions, I don't even know what I'm going to be doing, but I'm talking to the client, and then together we go on this journey of exploring what they need. And it becomes either maybe body movement or alignment session, or we work with herbs, or we work with all those different other modalities that I mentioned. And I just help people. That's what I do. I love to heal. I come from a family of healers, and we've had this for generations. And I'm just really, really, that's my mission in this world.
Wow, you've given me so much to work with. If I wanted to try one of your services, where would I even start?
Well, first, maybe we should talk about what you're looking for, and what are your goals, and where are you lacking alignment. And then we can come up with a plan that will fit you best.
That's so exciting. How do I get in touch with you?
You can email me, and then I'll send you more information.
Great. I can't wait to connect.
Okay. Now let's do the flip.
So you've given me a lot to work
discuss.
Here.
Yes, let's discuss.
Yeah. Let's try it. All right, let's go. Putting me on the spot here with lots of different topics and modalities to work with. So let's give it a shot. So I think there's a lot of us who are dabbling in multiple modalities, right? I have an MBA and a yoga teacher certification. I'm getting a doctorate. I might become a Reiki healer after that as well, right? And if I was trying to list off all of those things for an individual to help them understand what I'm doing, we would just be lost in the sauce, right? And so we hold back sometimes from using the true terminology, which is, I'm an expert at the intersection of personal development and business development, or I'm an expert at this intersectional space between soul-led healing and personal growth. I do that with a lot of different modalities that I've learned throughout the years. So we hold back in kind of this, some of the terminology that would help us express exactly our positioning, which is expertise, which is being an authority, which is, bringing years of experience to the table, because we're trying to over-explain ourselves so often. We're trying to over-explain and over-validate ourselves instead of just standing strong in a position. I think this is also a uniquely female issue that we deal with as well, because we're constantly trying to justify our seat at the table by explaining all of our credentials and all of the reasons why we deserve to be there, instead of just being very clear about who we are and what we do.
Amazing. Such a good point. And I also, to add from my perspective, something that I've seen and mistakes that people do in all kinds of industries, right? And they list their accomplishments or credentials instead of leading with the value that you actually provide to people or benefits of working with you. And it's such a basic mistake, because when people ask what you do, a lot of us automatically think that they're really interested in learning the laundry list of everything we do. But really, they ask to understand for themselves, how can they connect with you on a deeper level?
That's absolutely right. And this issue is not reserved for holistic practitioners or solopreneurs, right? This happens in the CEO space all the way through the executive pipeline, every type of business, every type of human, because we are not just one thing. And career development now, honestly, is taking a huge turn towards this portfolio space where we might have 3 or 4 major buckets open at any one time. You and I are perfect examples of this. So it's kind of like choosing which bucket to lead with, but also really doing some self-reflection about where you stand in those spaces, right? Just last night, I heard a great example and a terrible example at a dinner I was at. Someone told me, I said, "What does your husband do?" And she said, "Oh, he's a commodities trader." And I was like, simple and straightforward. Asked another person, "What do you do?" And got a long explanation about all the different aspects of their business. But I walk away not actually knowing what they do. I walk away like not really knowing what business they're in. And I've done this. I've done it well and made a mess of it, especially as I was walking into more and more tabs in life. And so it also is a space for real self-reflection. Sometimes we don't really want to write those strong I am statements about ourselves, and walking through that process, especially in a journal or something like that, can be really useful to help move this process forward in a soul-led way, not in a sales pitch way, but in a soul-led way.
Amazing. And also another great point in some of your examples is how sometimes people go on a whole journey of their life story, right? And speak, kind of share a lot, overshare maybe even sometimes, right? When maybe the better way to go about it, to choose one of the buckets, right? What do you lead with? Use your intuition. All the healers, you have their intuition. So you should know what the person is seeking or have an idea. So choose one thing to lead with and give them an opportunity, give them space to ask the follow-up question.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And let there be a pause, right? Because I've done it so many times, and I have overshared. I have over-explained myself, especially when you're walking into something new or you're in a new room or around new people, just kind of validating your position there. And I think we all do it instead of just kind of letting the truth hang of, I'm an expert, I'm an authority, I work in this space, things like that. Or I focus on, any of those things are helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, as you were talking, also something came up, people that actually are still doing healing part-time, for example, right? And they have a very traditional career. There's so many people like that I meet, they still have their corporate career and they really are starting to pursue healing first on the side, but then it becomes, the goal is to make it their main source of occupation, income, and life, right? So I think those are another tricky cases, right? What do you lead with? You say, I'm a business manager by day and a Reiki healer by night, or what do you choose?
That's a really good point. And it kind of brings up this thought about, I think, this myth of being single focused that we've had for so long. I know I had it for years where I thought, if I'm going to be successful at anything, I've got to be singularly focused on one thing. And I just don't believe that's true anymore. I love having people around who are multi-passionate, who are pursuing passions in, let's say, a solopreneur healing space, practitioner space, while also doing the practical work of paying the bills, doing the work, ascending in their corporate career. I don't think we have to choose. And I think that myth of choice has been around for a long time. And you're right, it comes down to intuition. A lot of the times, in the spaces I'm at, I'm going to lead with, I'm an executive in the wellness and technology space. And oh, by the way, I have this community that you might really love to connect with Alchemy Leadership Lab. And it's usually met with some pretty inquisitive ideas, questions. I would love to do that. I'm not putting the community out there to everyone, but especially people who feel aligned and like I might have a platform to offer them. And I think it's also important to come back to this idea of reciprocity as well, which is what can I give? Instead of just trying to tell someone who you are and what you do, think about this infinite loop of giving where you really are giving someone an invitation into the space that you take up, whether that's in your work, whether that's a community that you're putting together, whether that's even a podcast, right? You're giving me an invitation to step into your world and to benefit from that in some way. And so it is a give. You're not forcing something on someone. You're not selling it. You can really reframe it to say, how can I open the door to my gifts for the person that's standing in front of me?
Absolutely. So if we had to redo that intro of a person with 5 different modalities and maybe also a full-time job, right? Let's add some complexity to that.
Yes. Yes.
How would let's give people, our listeners, maybe a language that they can use. So if I asked you, what do you do?
Yeah, I think based on what we've established, I would start with, I'm an expert at helping people navigate healing modalities in a practical way in their life. I've studied a lot of them, which we can dive into, but I'm really here to help you put together some nurturing and healing methods or practices in your life that help move you forward. And you don't have to tell me every single one that you do. That comes down to a customized conversation later. And I would follow up with, it's a fully customized experience because I have expertise in so many different modalities. I really can pull from what makes the most sense for you, whether that's yoga or meditation or Reiki or some sort of health and wellness protocol that's perfect for you. But it really is based on what you want to accomplish.
Right. And another important thing that you did so well in the first role playing that we did, that you gave them a very clear, what should we call it, action item. Here's my QR code, go scan it and book. And I think this is where things get lost. A lot of opportunities get lost. And I said in this role playing, oh, here's my email. I'll just send you more information. This is where a lot of times things get lost, right? So you have that attention of a person at that moment, and they're clearly intrigued about what you do. You have to, and I really don't want to use marketing terms, especially not on this podcast, but there's this idea and we need a better term for conversion, right? How do you convert somebody to an actual client or potential client? And how do we do that better?
That's absolutely right. Well, this terminology exists because it works, whether we like it or not, or whether we are diverting into a different type of language that we use to speak about these things. Maybe it's, new community members and not conversion. It doesn't matter what you call it. Having the boldness and, let's say, the confidence in what you offer to make the ask, which is move on the energy that's present. We would say strike while the iron's hot in the sales world, when in reality, if there's an energy about what you're doing, you want to capture the momentum of that energy. And that's part of your work, right? Especially in this holistic space, is to be able to respond when there's an energetic cue towards something. And so making that easy. I've coached multiple local businesses when I do health and wellness events, especially when they're showing up and I'm like, make sure an offer is ready that someone can respond to in the moment without thinking about it, without overthinking it or coming back to it later. And it's funny that you brought this up, just email me later. I actually coached through this exact process at one of my events where one of my local vendors just said, oh, I'll just collect an email and reach out later. I said, no. I said, arrive with a pay link, put a bundle package together that you can sell that day so that when people meet you and they are energetically responding to what you have to offer, they can make a move, right? Don't give us too much time to think about it or deprioritize it in our minds. Make sure that we can move on that energy.
Absolutely. So yes, and the easier you can make that process, right? Don't make it 5 steps. Don't make it send me an email, send me more information. You can think about it, and maybe you can send me another email and we can find time to meet, right? It's just, and this is what we try to do. I mean, a big chunk of my work at Healist is really automating that process, at least. I mean, we can help you with your elevator pitch. The soulful elevator pitch is you. But from that moment, to have that easy bookable link that you can just share with people, they get all the information they need. They have your bio and credentials there. They have all your social profiles. They want to follow you. They have all your services menu. They have pricing, description. They have your calendar, like all the pieces that they need in order to make that decision, right? That's what we try to do with our product. But and part of it actually started because I personally, as a client, anytime I wanted to see a healer, I had to jump through like 5 different hoops and send emails and whatnot.
This brings up a really interesting point. I work with a local healer here where I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, who does a beautiful job of dancing between systems and soul-led work, and always has. It is easy to book with her. It is easy to find her schedule. It's easy to make an appointment. She's very responsive. And I would say that's not the standard in the industry, right? The standard is you send a text message or maybe an Instagram message. We spend maybe a week going back and forth looking for a time to connect. I'm losing interest during this time, right? There's 10 other things that are on my mind to do. And you're absolutely right. You lose the opportunity during that whole process of schedule coordination or explanation or those types of things. And so I love the idea that everything is just right in front of you and can be easily activated in that moment to say, hey, here's everything you need to book with me. Because let's just say, and I won't mention who, but I actually keep memberships to places that are probably not the very best service or experience because it's so easy to book. It is so easy just to hop on the app or hop on the website. I can just book what I need and go in and get it done. And it's really a game changer, especially today when there's so many things fighting for our time.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that, reinforcing that message that we are spreading. And it was really extremely helpful. Just want to take it all in. I think we gave a lot of our listeners a lot of great, food for thought, right? Something to pay attention first. I know it might sound overwhelming. Okay, I now need to figure out my new elevator pitch, right? And you might have realized that some of those things I would describe, maybe you're doing as well. But I think maybe first step is just start paying attention next time someone asks you if you do.
And I think a really actionable takeaway would be 2 things. One, to journal about, let's say, 3 of your ideal customers. Who are those people? What do they do? I'm going to use the term avatar, which avatar is really not close enough. But in the past, when you were building a business, you build out your customer avatar and you speak to that community. But as a holistic practitioner, as a solopreneur, think about the conversations that you have. Are you mainly working with working moms? Are you mainly working with, suburban housewives? What is your mission-driven group that you're called to? And think about who those top 3 people are and write it out in detail. Who are those people, right? What do they do? How do they spend their time? What's important to them? What are they stressed out about? And then it might become a lot easier to fashion just kind of 3 statements about how you position yourself with those individuals. Write it out, practice it, say it out loud so that you kind of get through the things that are jumbly or don't make sense before you're in front of someone. And that doesn't sound very soul-led, but the reality is the practice of this terminology and the practice and visualization of the conversation is really an incredibly important part of making it flow and getting your energy across successfully.
Absolutely. And I would encourage anyone who can to practice in person. Just go to a local networking event, and not even a holistic event, right? Go sign up. There's so many like small business owner groups. There's just so much happening in local communities. Just go and practice without any pressure. Don't go with this idea, okay, I want to get like 3 new potential clients out of this. Just go to practice and have fun, but really use that time to sharpen, and you're going to get better with every introduction.
That's absolutely right. In fact, I have an avenue that can even be used for that with Alchemy Leadership Lab. We host a needs and leads call, and we keep the call nice and short. But the idea is exactly what we mentioned earlier, which is reciprocity. You show up with a need that you can clearly articulate, whether that's in business or your practice that you're starting, and with a lead. What can you give? Where can you support the community? What can you offer as expertise or as a connection? And we always do those things together. But what's been so amazing through this process over the last couple of months, the level of interest is huge. Women are ready to do business, right? Whether you like that terminology or not, we are ready to do business, and we want to do business intentionally together, which is incredible. The second thing is we're very unprepared to say these things very clearly. I've gotten to coach now groups of women through this process to say, be prepared to tell me clearly what it is that you need. How can I help you? Because I can't help you if I can't recall in one sentence what you need from me. I don't know how to plug myself in. And further, tell me what you do. Where's your magic? What is your genius in one sentence so that the rest of the community can benefit from it? And that's been an incredible process to watch. I'm not the only one who had to work through this evolution over years of kind of coaching and executive presence and learning and development. It's very common not to be used to these things. So don't judge yourself for not being able to do it right off the bat, but do find these areas where you can plug in, practice in a safe space, be in community, and make connections in that way.
Amazing. And your community sounds incredible. Can you share more about it?
Absolutely. So Alchemy Leadership Lab is, let's say, the brainchild of my executive work and my doctoral research, which is in leadership resilience. Right now, it is at this incubation stage, which has been a really beautiful thing that's come together on WhatsApp. So there's around 150 women on WhatsApp. We are very actively engaging in the wellness, fitness, beauty, health space, right? Every day somebody from a new industry is joining. But really the goal is to elevate each other's voices, and it's to align personal and professional development and to do business very intentionally together. You know, sometimes men are a little bit better at showing up at the golf course and walking away with a business deal. We want to be intentional and forthright about the fact that we are interested in getting business done. We are interested in supporting each other's endeavors and also supporting each other personally, because I don't believe those two things are separated. So you will see more over the next months. I'm always very grateful for anyone who's along at this stage of the journey, because it really is just this response to energy and response to the opportunity that's in front of us while the platform is being developed behind the scenes. But it's really a truly beautiful space and container that has already developed.
Amazing. And I love the way you're developing it too, and just kind of going with the flow and allowing it to shape itself. Because I remember we talked originally, it was a few months back, and you said, well, I'm not sure where it's going to be yet, right? And we kind of pre-scheduled this interview kind of far into the future. And I think that's okay. I think it's totally with the spirit of times, right? You don't need to have this perfectly polished, kind of maybe a counter message to what we were talking before. You don't always need to have everything figured out and that perfectly polished like elevator pitch ready, because you're still building something. And that's okay too, as long as you can define it very clearly, which you just did.
Yeah. And I love that you brought that. That's a whole separate podcast, like getting away from this idea of perfectionism before we put something out for public view, which I really had to get over myself as well. But I did it because I want to do this in community. I want other people next to me while I'm going through this process. And unless I'm honest about the process, I can't have that. If I wait to stand up this perfect quote unquote platform after it's ready and just surprise the public with it, then I lose all of this build momentum that's happening along the way when I open myself up authentically. But it's a huge challenge to my perfectionism at all times, because I'm just publicly experimenting with some things and being honest about that. But what I'm noticing is that it's allowing space for others in the community to also publicly experiment. So whether that's on LinkedIn, whether that's on consulting calls, whatever it is that they're diving into, I'm seeing more and more of this energy come forward. And I think it's fantastic.
I love that so much. And yes, you're right. It's a whole other subject. And I think it's close to so many people, anyone who's building a community or even a client base, right? Taking it back to practitioners, you might be still kind of figuring it out. What is it? What is your full offering? And that's another thing that I'm seeing a lot in this space. So many people are in transition. They're saying, okay, this is what I studied. This is what I know, but I'm being taken to this much bigger thing now. And I don't know what it is yet, but I can feel its energy and it's pulling me. And I don't know how to define myself anymore because I'm not just this practitioner. I'm turning into something more.
That's right. Well, we've got a space to plug you in there too for career transitions, because so many women are putting their hands up to say, either I'm going through a midlife change and what's important to me, it isn't important anymore. I want to be doing my soul work. I am feeling the energy of change. This year is bringing about depends on your mindset, but such a disruption to be able to create change and iterate into the next new thing. When I started walking through this process of career change, I was terrified because I thought, where are the other people going through this process? I had not identified them yet. And this community has made me realize really quickly. I just started sharing one-on-one last fall, where I was at, what was going on, trying to be bold, like I'm coaching in this call, trying to be bold about where I'm at so people can find me. And that led me then to this space of, oh, hold on, there's so many other women out there like me who are pursuing the next thing, who are stepping into the next version, and it's not totally clear yet. And can we lock arms and do that together? So I do think it's a bit of a macro energy that's going on and manifesting itself on the individual level. And I hear it over and over again.
Amazing. I just had goosebumps all over as you were speaking. I just feel like you're right. Like there's so many people going through it and we all think this is just us. This is just me. And a lot of people are really hesitant to share because they feel like they need to know the final destination before they're able to share it. Right.
Absolutely.
And it's just so powerful. And the people you're going to attract when you share your transition, I think it has some potential.
I agree with you. And you know what's funny is the challenge is to stay in the authenticity of that transition, is to not try to button it up and make it look too pretty, not try to over explain it, to be able to say, part of my statement is I'm in the middle of a career transition, and just working up to the confidence to say that out loud took a few months. I'm not going to pretend like I just woke up one day and was like, this is all going to be fine. There's nothing to worry about. That's not real. So the challenge is really to stay authentic in that space. And what I do believe is that you don't have to make a choice between saying boldly who you are and what you need and inviting someone into your gifts and being authentic and showing up as your real self. I do not believe there's a choice between those two things. And I think over time we have kind of created this false dilemma for ourselves at times, that I can either show up as a business person or I can show up as myself, and I can't do both. And that's not true.
Amazing. I love this message. So we're giving our listeners a third option to show up as a transition. And if you're going into a conversation, back to our original question, what do? You could also say, I'm going to this transition from the corporate world to holistic healing, let's say. And you wait for the response and to see what the person resonates with. And it's actually like a fun game to play sometimes, because you can see if they pick the first part or the second.
That's right. You'll be amazed, I think, if you are in that space and you begin sharing it, how many people say, oh my God, me too. Or, oh my gosh, I feel the same way. Especially if we're talking about, transitioning from more of this mind-led space or, pragmatically led space into what we're doing next. Yeah, I think you'll find that there's more people with you on the path than you think. And being on the path with that person is actually a much stronger connection than whatever it is at the end of the day that you're practicing, selling, positioning yourself towards, especially if you're stepping into your soul-led work.
Amazing. And also to loop back to our conversation about transforming people into potential clients or opportunities, I think people, once they resonate with let's say the transitional path, right? Now they become part of your transition. Now they become your cheerleaders, your supporters. And I think there's a great chance that they will choose to support you even more, knowing that you're going through something like this and how much and how important some of those early clients are that allow you this transition to actually happen.
That's right. Those early champions. And those early champions, I think of like the cluster that's come alongside me that I didn't have 6 months ago that I have today because I just shared very authentically about where I was and where I had planned to go. And those early champions are really the key to momentum. You don't have to convert 200 clients. You need like 12 committed ones that are, because not to say that women do everything great, but women are champions of things they care about. They are loyal and they will invite you into their space. They're includers. They want all their friends to know about something great when they find out what that is, whether that's the sale, whether that's the product, whatever it is. We invite people into that. We want everybody to know. And so that's a really powerful thing to bring alongside you. But people can't become your champion again if they don't know where you're at and they don't know how to help you.
Such a great message. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. I feel like there's just so much in this episode to unpack. And as usual, the time runs so fast in those episodes, at least for me. And I wanted to give you an opportunity also to share anything else that you wanted to share with our listeners, anything we forgot to mention, any of your amazing projects, or how people can follow you. Of course, we put all your information in the show notes, but any last message for our listeners?
Yeah, I would love to. I feel like the Healist community is a really well-aligned community with Alchemy Leadership Lab. So there's two ways to get involved. One is just to go to www.alchemyleadershiplab.com, sign up for the newsletter. I will never spam you. I don't have time to spam you. I don't know how people have the time to do that. 1 or 2 emails a month that are highly concentrated value and ways to get involved in community. And then I'll drop the WhatsApp link in the show notes as well, because it's truly a way to very tactically get involved and get some needs met on the business level and on the personal level in community in a very aligned space. So those are the 2 ways to get involved right now. Don't judge any of it. It's all in development. It's all in incubation, but what's coming together is really beautiful.
Amazing. I love, love, love what you do, and such needed work. I mean, we need many communities, right? Because I think as the more communities, the better, because people align with certain groups, with certain messages, with certain voices, and we need options, and especially communities that help women ascend, that not just there to be and create more noise. They're there to truly support, and sounds like what you're creating is just that. So thank you for doing your magic.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it and hoping, I'm very focused on tangible value and potency. You are right. There are plenty of spaces where women can come together, but I'm here to get things done. And it is a little bit different, right? It might be a little bit bolder statement. It might be a little bit putting ourselves out there in a way that we're not used to, but the need is huge and the response has been fantastic so far.
Amazing. Well, you've given a great value to our listeners by sharing all your incredible insights. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed being on today.